next three verses, 25, 26 and 27.
Daivameva pare yajñam yoginah paryupasate Brahmagnava pare yajñam yajñenaivopajuhvati Shrotraadinindriyanyanye Samyamagnishu juhvati Shabdadin vishayanyanye Indriyagnishu juhvati Sarvani indriyakarmani Pranakarmani chapare Atma samyama yogagnau Juhvati jnana deepite.
So on the first day of our class, we said only a person who has become free can go beyond. A person who is slavishly dependent on the body, on the mind and on the intellect can never say, I am beyond the body, mind, intellect. Because for him to say, he needs a cup of coffee first. Is it not? How can I call something false when I am still a slave to that? And therefore, every sadhana, every effort can be summarized as one's effort to go beyond the body, mind and intellect. How? By mastering it. And therefore, for each person, the way the body, mind and intellect has enslaved them, being different, the way the person goes beyond them also has to be different. One path, one God, one way cannot happen. Is it not? People being different, the paths have to be different. Each mind is different and therefore the ways have to be different. And so Bhagavan gives us so many ways by which one can perform yajna. What is yajna? The concept of yajna is action, and the concept of action becoming yajna is when it becomes selfless. And therefore any action that is taken up with the intent to go beyond oneself. And how does one go beyond oneself? When one has held on to that which is beyond oneself. It is only by holding on to a higher rung of the ladder can one leave the lower rung of the ladder. And therefore every yajna is an attempt to go beyond, to raise oneself. Krishna, yes, you come and lift me up. So therefore what will I do? I will do nothing. But in your name I will eat 2 more spoons of prasada. That too I will do. Krishna has better work to do. Krishna will not come. Krishna has given us all the tools, and therefore Krishna says in the 6th chapter, raise yourself by yourself. I am not making you my slave, I am making you like myself. And therefore every effort is self-effort. So what is the first yajna? Apare yoginaha Devameva pare yajnam yoginaha. Apare yoginaha. Some yogis, what do they perform? They perform Devam Yajnam. Yajnam, worship. Some yogis take up worship of Deva, of Bhagavan, of Ishvara as their sadhana. And thus, becoming one with Bhagavan in their sadhana of worship, they purify their minds. Every day, according to how the Shastras mention, so there are yajnas, there are worship which has been talked about in the Vedas. Vedokta yajnaha. These are the 24 steps through which you should worship the Lord. So I will worship the Lord not as I want with all the compromises, but as will be pleased as said in the scriptures. Can an athlete improve himself if he runs within his comfort zone? The coach will push him, run 2 kilometers. The athlete says, I will run 500 meters. He will never grow. And therefore, he should go beyond his comfort zone and do exactly as the Veda has said, exactly as the mantras have to be said, exactly as the steps have to be done, and in that he grows. And how is it done? In dedication to Bhagavan. So the Sankalpa says, Mamopata samasta durtakshaya dwara Shri Parameshwara Prityartham. For what is it done? For the happiness, Prityartham, to please my Bhagavan I am doing this. Not for anything else. I am doing my worship of Bhagavan. For what? So that my mind becomes completely pure. Puja is a fantastic way of worship. Because we have 3 instruments which disturb us, the body, mind and intellect. When the body is restless, I cannot do japa. When the mind has no concentration on anything, I cannot do japa. Is it not? And therefore, all the 3 instruments are engaged in japa, in puja. The body is worshipping Bhagavan. The mind is thinking of Bhagavan. And our speech is uttering mantras of Bhagavan. So all the instruments at the same time are engaged. When we are learning cycle, we nowadays need 3-wheel support. And once we have improved, 2 wheels are enough. And a master, 1 wheel. In the same way, a beginner needs 3 wheels. Body, mind and speech. Later on he grows to japa. He does not need the body. Body is quietened. He needs only mind and speech. He's grown higher. He does not need even speech. Only the mind contemplates on the truth. And in that higher stage, he goes beyond the mind. And thus, the first way of worship is puja. And that is called Daiva Yajna. As said in the Vedas, some pujas are talked about in the Smritis, and some pujas are talked about in the Puranas. There are some pujas which comes like Paddhati, like Guru Paduka Puja. All of them can liberate us, can take us to the level of purity. Same way, another yajna. So from this level, Bhagavan jumps to the highest level. It's called Brahma Yajna. So in Brahma Yajna, Brahman means the supreme, truth, the absolute. So in that, Brahma Agnau, in the fire of the supreme Brahman, I have to offer something. What is that I am offering? Brahman. In the Brahma Yajna, in the fire of Brahman, I am offering what? I am offering Yajnam. Yajnam Yajnaiva Juhvati. So I am offering Yajnam into the fire of Brahman. By whom is this offering done? Yajnena. The language is very interesting. By Yajna, I am offering Yajna into the fire of Brahman. So what does Bhagavan say? The meaning of yajna itself has so many connotations. We saw in Brahmarpanam, Brahmahavihi. So here, what is being offered? Yajnam, and yajnam here means the worshipper. So who is the worshipper? The worshipper is the ego. The doer is the worshipper. The ego is the worshipper. So he is offered into the fire. Of what? Of Brahman. By what? By the act of yajna, which means by the act of supreme contemplation. It means technically Brahmakara vritti. By the thought of infinity, one drops this finitude into the infinity. So when a person is in contemplation with no other support, the individual ego in that state of contemplation is offered into the fire of Brahman. And finally, what remains? Only the fire of Brahman remains. And thus the ego is offered. It is called nididhyasana. And from nididhyasana, one goes to this Brahmakara vritti. The vritti, the thought of the infinite, which has no bounds, which has no form. And from that state, he goes into realization. The next yajna that is talked about, Bhagavan, yes, this Brahma yajna is too high. Okay. Then do puja. That is ordinary, you know. So if I tell you something too high, you can't do it. If I tell you something else, you don't have Shraddha in that also. How by doing puja I will realize? So please tell me something else. Bhagavan says yes. And the next type of yajna is Shrotradin Indriya Anye Samyama Agnisha Jishvati. So what does he do? What is the yajna? Samyama yajna. Samyama, self-control. Let us read the second line first. It says Shabdadin Vishayani Anye Indriya Agnishu Juhvati. Juhvati, he burns. What does he burn? He burns all the perceptions into the fire of the senses. The senses are the deities. And therefore he offers all his perceptions in the attitude of yajna, in the attitude of worship to what? To these senses. So who are these senses? These senses are devatas, and therefore what he offers are materials of puja. So when we are performing puja, what kind of materials do we offer? We offer the best of materials. So what do I offer to my eyes? If the eyes are deities, if eyes are God, what do I offer to God? The best of sight. What is it? Bhagavan's image, Bhagavan's form. If the ears are God, what will I offer to God? The best of hearing, which is the name of the Lord only. Same way to all the senses, I pick and choose all the perceptions. I don't allow anybody and I don't allow any perception inside, but I pick and choose the best of perceptions. And only those perceptions I offer to the senses. That is one of the yajnas. And then these senses, do I let it keep thinking about certain things in its indulgence? No. I offer the senses into the fire of self-control. So these senses also, I don't keep engaging it relentlessly and without any kind of control in all objects. But I also know to what extent I should engage them, to what extent I should withdraw them. And thus I practice the yajna of self-control. And that way I practice yajna. Bhagavan, the prasad was so tasty. Wonderful. So eat everything as prasad, but don't indulge in that prasad also. Practice self-restraint. There are some people who say, don't worry, even if you're diabetic, eat the sweet. Nothing will happen because it is prasad. I don't know what is the logic. It feels good, right? And therefore, live the life of self-control in sense perceptions. Live the life of sense control in indulging our senses. And that itself will take us to purity. In the same way, Bhagavan talked about the organs of perception. In the next verse, Bhagavan is talking about the organs of action. If you will see in the 6th chapter, Yuktahara Viharasya Yukta Cheshtasya Karmasu. In action also, one should not go on engaging the senses, engaging the organs of action. Doing. Sometimes you should also learn to sit quiet. It is nothing great that one keeps on doing work. It only means they cannot sit quiet. The biggest punishment you can give to a child, not even scolding, not even beating, make the child sit quiet. You try it out. Sit in one place without moving hands or legs or even your head for 1 hour. It is said in yoga, what is the meaning of asana? Meaning of asana is, if you can sit in one asana, what is sthirata in asana? What is steadiness in asana? If you can sit in one posture without movement for 3 hours, then you are established, you have got steadiness in that asana. Swamiji, 3 hours. Eyes want to open, the hands want to move. So therefore a person who is controlled in the occupation of our organs of action, that is also sense control, that is also control of organs of our action. So it says, in this verse it is said, Sarvani Indriya Karmani, all the Indriya Karma, all the actions that are done by the Indriyas, organs of action, and Prana Karmani, the actions of our pranas, what is it done? Atma Samyama Yogagnau Juhvati. In the Agni of Atma Samyama, self-control, they are all burned. And only such a person can attain absolute stillness. And having said this, Bhagavan talks about the next point. So many different ways are there of performing worship. Sitting in your office, you can perform yajna. Sitting in your house, you can perform yajna. Sitting in your car, sitting in your vehicle, you can perform yajna. Where is our excuse? Every moment in the state of alertness, in the state of being selfless, in the state of being aware that I have to achieve that supreme truth. In reality, I am the supreme, and therefore not engage in that perception, but engage in the thought of the Atma. I am performing yajna. That constant awareness of the self all the time is yajna. And thus Bhagavan talks about more yajnas now. And now Bhagavan is in a hurry. So he cannot use 2-3 verses to explain. So Bhagavan now gives us in a flow.